This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
The following was recorded and produced for Drop D Podcast Productions by Grant Wilson.
Welcome to Quick Hits, a JFK assassination news and notes podcast with your hosts, Rob Clark and Doug Campbell.
Thank you, Grant. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Quick Hits, a JFK assassination research news and notes podcast. I am your co-host, Rob Clark, and along with me today is host of the Dallas Action and my buddy, Mr. Doug Campbell.
Hello there, Rob. What is shaking? Yes, producer Grant is ensconced in the engine room. Let's get started, Mr. Rob. I believe you have today's first topic.
I do. And I want to bring up something interesting. And we've talked about it a little bit on the show before.
A little bit.
But there's been some interesting developments recently since we last spoke.
Pray tell.
And I'll just read you this post that I did on the Ed forum, okay? It's called Lancer Dead, Copa Dead, Now Kappa Dead, ? Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, I ran into a member of Kappa online, William Kelly. I believe you're familiar.
Yes, very familiar. His both of his counter coup blogs are favorites of mine. I do follow them both. Mr. Kelly is responsible for some very quality research.
He is, and I don't really have a bone to pick with him per se.
Yes, sir.
It's not even about that. It's just some news. So according to Kappa member Bill Kelly, there was a big blow-up at the last Kappa meeting over the blowback from the Oliver Stone Judyth Baker debacle, even capitulating that JFK Conferences LLC should pick up half of Oliver Stone's travel, lodging expenses, and speaking fee. Because of the blowback, Kelly is blaming critics of the 2019 Kappa Conference for its impending demise. I offer that they brought it upon themselves, cavorting with Judyth and recognizing her conference as legitimate. The simple fact that their own chairman of the board, Cyril Wecht, chose to speak at her conference and speak on the grassy knoll with her group, and it was her group doing the knoll ceremony along with other noted fraud Beverly Oliver, coupled with Oliver Stone spending more time over there at her conference with Judyth than at Kappa, that are the main issues here. If Kappa goes, this leaves fraud Judyth Baker the sole Dallas-based conference. As Bill so eloquently said in his post, congratulations. This is what it has come to. If you can't do and run the Dallas conference correctly and successfully, then maybe it is time to go. Hell, even John Newman is speaking at the next JudyCon Trine Day JFK Historical Group Conference in April in Kansas City. Really, guys? That was my post.
Well, wow. Yeah, Dr. John Newman is going to speak at the Kansas City thing, which I think is run by David Denton, who hosted us at the Historical Groups Conference 2014, I believe. Yeah, that is problematic. But I remember we've talked about the blowback and the blow up when that happened. I think you and I were texting literally as it occurred while you were in Dallas. I agree with what Bill Simpich posted online. There's just no excuse. I'm sorry, there's no excuse.
Right.
These authors, and I'll say this again. We talked about this before. I don't keep up with other people's download numbers, right? Plays download numbers. I keep up with mine,
And I keep up with mine.
And I know, here's the thing. I know how many people attend these conferences, roughly,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Roughly. And I know what my plays and downloads are. They talk about getting the information out. Well, it's all about getting the information out, speaking at this conference so people will hear it. Authors, researchers, you can get on Skype like Rob and I are right now and talk to either Rob or me at the Lone Gunman or the Dallas action. And literally from the comfort of your own home, get this information out. Not in a 45-minute presentation time frame that you've been given, but for up to 3 hours, to literally over 15 times per month the number of people that attend these conferences. You know, but I digress. But I agree with Bill Simpich. If you consider yourself a serious thinker and a level-headed thinker, there's no reason to cavort over there.
Right. And now this, of course, the original post that I made, of course, made some people angry. Okay.
Well, no, not Rob.
Namely, one Vince Palomera, who is the Secret Service specialist.
Now,
written several books.
I am aware of this thread, and have been following it. I don't get the photographs of Lyndon Johnson and Bobby Kennedy Jr. riding in the same car in the middle of the discussion. I don't get the context.
That was his pathetic attempt to derail the thread.
Hijack.
Because he's losing his argument. Because what he says is, okay, well, I wasn't invited. Well, I got an award. Well, Dick Russell was there. Several other Trying Day authors were there. Mel Hyman, Robert Groden, blah, blah, blah.
Well, he brought up the fact that Trying Day published one or two fiction books, murder mysteries, that Dr. Walt Brown wrote.
Right.
And Trying Day being Baker's publisher, and they're sort of the number two over this JFK Conferences LLC thing. And he sort of brought that up like, oh, yeah, well, they published Walt Brown, and Walt Brown is a harsh critic of her. Like, that somehow mitigates things.
Yeah, but you know who wasn't speaking at the Judy conference?
Who's that?
Walt Brown.
Exactly, and that you will never,
because he said no.
You will never, ever, ever see that happen. I guarantee you that. That will never happen.
And I also found this out, that her conference was flying in, paying the expenses, lodging fees, and flight fees for their speakers, which obviously Trying Day, being a publishing company, can do and write off as a business expense for promotion of their authors.
Hey, dude, when you and I went up there for that conference, because we were media, if you'll remember, we didn't pay a dime for the rooms. You were local, and I just went ahead. I didn't ask about airfare. I just paid my own. You were like, what, hour and a half away? So that didn't come up, but, they comped our stuff.
Right. Well, I'm sure when you put on a conference like that at a hotel, they give you a certain amount of free rooms, because they're expecting if you fill up, 50 rooms, then we'll give you 10 for free.
Hey,
for
man,
your speakers, or whoever.
If you remember the year after that, 2015, I sent a very long, eloquent, email, very, very structured. I put it together. I took some time writing it to Deb Conway at Lancer about the same kind of thing for us to come and cover Lancer. And we were basically, and I think her assistant emailed me back, and it was just, no comping, no anything. It was like, no, we can't do that. We don't have that kind of budget. That's what they told me. We simply don't have the budget to do that. And even back then, I wondered, that's interesting. But, yeah, they're flying people in. They're paying everything.
They're paying for everything because they can write it off as a business promotion expense.
Right. But you have to have that capital. You can't, you have to have that capital.
Right,
even if you go buy 25 plane tickets, in 30 days, you're going to have to send a check to somebody, a credit card or whatever. You're going to have that money in the bank pretty quick. So, before you can first write it off as a business expense, you have to have it to spend. And that's the curious part.
Right. And a lot of these guys, and they've done it for years, okay, have taken the approach of, okay, well, we'll just sit back and ignore her and hope she goes away. It's no big deal. People can believe what they want. She can say whatever she wants, blah, blah, blah. We'll ignore her. She can go away. And obviously that approach has not worked.
And
okay?
and yeah, and when Kappa, here's the thing. I mean, if you look at the way, it's almost like a psyop. I mean, they poach a few of you get Cyril Wecht, and then you get this one, and then you get this one, and then Oliver Stone shows up. And in one fell swoop, in the eyes of some, she gains credibility. And like I said, one fell swoop, Kappa, the new upstart, that is presenting itself as the reasonable alternative, collapses.
Right.
At the same time.
I know Simpich voiced his opinion on the matter.
It's like Ricky LaFleur said, they got two birds stoned at once.
Yeah. Larry Schnapp has since resigned from the Kappa board.
Very upset. He was very upset over that. And, okay, I heard a quote, Rob, from Cyril Wecht, something like, when I'm going into battle, it was something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, that when I'm going into battle, if someone's going into battle with me, I'm not picky about who's going into battle with me. Something along those lines.
Yeah, well, he also made the comment, does it really matter if Judyth Baker had a relationship with Lee Oswald? He was still innocent. He was shot from the front, from the grassy knoll. Well, yeah, it matters.
It matters.
It matters.
It matters.
And here's what I ultimately said on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because it comes down to a matter of choice. I was trying to get this across to Vince, that speaking at her conference, saying yes to doing that, is ultimately lending her credibility and credence to her story.
Yeah.
I said basically this. If folks are given a choice of conferences that are going on at the same time, that both charge an expensive entry fee, which I understand, venues cost money, sometimes speakers need cost covered to get them there, then I would say they are competing entities. I see Cyril Wecht, John Newman, Gary Aguilar are speaking in Kansas City now for Denton and Company. Anywhere there's a podium, huh? Unbelievable. It's no wonder Kappa is doomed. The main issue here is that Judyth Baker is a provable fraud and huckster who has shylocked her way into the position she is in now.
Amen and amen.
Soliciting thousands of dollars from her cult-like following of believers by claiming everything from deadly spider bites, needing surgery she never got, a motorized scooter she doesn't use, and CIA-sponsored hacking of her computers and bank accounts. It's laughable. And anyone associating themselves with her or her conference should be ashamed.
And she doesn't live in Sweden. She lives on the East Coast.
Yeah. I said, would you speak at the James Files conference, Vince?
Amen. I read that.
How about the Louis Factor conference, Over the years, it has been the fringe conference supporting views of the LBJ Did It crowd, Oswald in the doorway, the limo stop for 15 minutes, Z-film alteration, watch finding, and every other debunked and disproved theory you can imagine. Now, because Judith/Trine aligned herself with the JFK Historical Group, in quotes, another laughable ragtag group of questionable researchers with an official-sounding name, they attract more speakers who previously wouldn't have given her the time of day. Speaking at her conference or associating yourself with her is validating her existence. The pathetic excuse that Kappa didn't ask me to speak, but she did, and I got a nice shiny award for the mantle, doesn't fly. It's a choice, Vince. Kappa has no one to blame.
We have a choice
for this debacle.
We have a choice. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And people like you that choose a podium over a chair have no one else to blame for the rise of Judyth Baker leading the conference scene in Dallas. Enjoy that for years to come. So.
Yes. And you know what? I side with all your points, my friend. Can't say that I disagree with any of that.
I just don't get it. And like I said, here's a quote from Bill Simpich. I agree with Greg. When people go to a conference for whatever reason, they are supporting Judyth, period. There's only one ethical answer: don't do it. And that is a direct quote from Bill Simpich.
Now, do we know that she is going to be at this Kansas City thing?
Allegedly, she is not, but I'll tell you why. And if you read a very good article, 50-page article that Greg Parker just published on his website.
Someone sent me that, but I have not read it.
All about Judyth. I think that was me. You're welcome. Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a detailed
how embarrassing.
Taking down of her. Like, apparently, Doug, she fell at last year's Olney conference and was thinking about suing Olney College, okay? Because she fell down and hurt her neck or her back.
Great.
That's why she had that neck brace on this year that you may have seen in some pictures.
No, I avoided pictures of all that if I could, but so there was a little bit of a
she instead took the tact of asking her followers to pay for her medical expenses, for all this medicine she posted pictures of. She said she wanted to use the money to get surgery, and then she changed her mind, and she wanted to use it to buy a scooter, which she never got, and on and on and on. So
she taking Proloid like David Ferry?
I don't know. Apparently, there's trouble in the JFK historical group. They didn't really want her, I guess, to come this year because she's a lightning rod.
You know what it could be, too. I mean, if she fell and she's begging for money and I hurt myself and my neck and wearing a neck brace, and all that, perhaps the JFK Historical Group's insurance carrier said no.
Right. If you notice, a lot of these speakers at this Kansas City conference are not Trine Day authors.
Well, look.
But it's a lot of Ed Tatro, a lot of Denton, a lot of Quinlan, and all those guys.
Yeah. Which, Casey Quinlan, he's a nice guy. He's a real nice guy. But he's wrong about QJ Wynn.
Half the Capitol board, or half the Kappa board.
Yeah, half the Kappa board. And, man, what you said, we have a choice. You and I went to David's thing, and we had a great time. But there was some of that stuff I was exposed to, man. The Judy cult, and again, like I said, David Denton, he's a good dude, man. He's straight a good dude. And he did host us. He was a fine host. And I'll say that over and over again. And we had fun. But some of that stuff I was like the Monkeys Mary Mosaic and all that nonsense. It's got nothing to do with what the hell happened in Dealey Plaza. And don't try to tell me it does.
Right. But I also think that conference that we went to was the beginning of the genesis of them teaming up together and putting on all these conferences, a couple times a year. And it evolved into the Dallas conference. And, now they're pretty much married together, unless they're going to do their own thing separate from Judyth next year, which might be a possibility if Cap is not going to be around. And, those guys want to do their own thing. I can see them totally being a Trine Day conference over here and a JFK historical group or whatever it is over here, with what's left of the remnants of the other conferences, Lancer and Kappa, rounding it out. But I don't know. Like I said, I went to Dallas and I had a choice of which conference to go to. I could have bought tickets to either one. I could have went to Judy's for free. They were giving them away in the
giving away the tickets with those awesome flyers.
But I paid my money. I got my ticket, and I got my seat.
There you go.
And that's where I wanted to go. I would rather be there than over there. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it comes down to a choice. You can say no, and Vince, you're more than welcome to come on either one of our shows and reach thousands of people and sell the shit out of your book and promote yourself or whatever you want to do. It's an open invitation, and I guarantee you will sell more books than you did in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but, dude, every time we upload a show, the Lone Gunman or the Dallas Action, we have a conference. Every time we upload a show, we have a research conference. That's what we're doing. All right? I call my show a study group. Every time that thing goes up, there's a conference, and more people attend that conference. You know what I'm saying? than will ever attend one in person.
It's like a conference speaker that is not limited on time and has plenty of time to explain their thing. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. And guys, if you want to, if you want to learn a lot and immerse yourself into this for a weekend, now that there's only one game in town in Dallas, do yourself a favor. Just block out 3 days. Go to the Lone Gunman Podcast archives at Spreaker.com or the Dallas Action archives and just hit play. Just hit play. You'll learn more in those 3 days doing that. You'll learn more. And that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
right.
Know,
like I said, I learned not much new in Dallas. I don't know how to say it nicely. But I didn't learn much relevant items, and I didn't learn much new items, and and that's what it should be. If I'm pilgrimaging to a distant city and paying a lot of money to do so, I want it to be worth it. And I just feel like it wasn't worth it.
Well, the one you and I went to together, it was worth it, if for no other reason than finding ourselves about midnight outside under the parking lot lights smoking Cuban cigars with Douglas Horn. That was worth it.
I agree.
That was totally worth it.
There's parts of the conferences that work, and parts that don't. And actually in the conference room, we didn't learn shit that we didn't already know or we think is bullshit.
You know what I mean? I did a lot more eye rolling than I did. Wow. Big time. And then with Ed Tatro shaking a fistful of crumpled yellow legal pad paper at everybody screaming, I got on a plane for that. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. But, and I'll tell you that's another thing. If Douglas Horn is at the conference, you're going to have a good time. I will say that. It doesn't matter who hosts it. But, now when you were talking about Trine Day, I'll say this too, man. Chris Milligan. I don't subscribe to any theory, any I got to say that, I'm just not that guy. I don't subscribe to that stuff. But I think it was after you left, went back on your drive home. Before I went to the airport, I had occasion to run into Chris Milligan outside the hotel and spend about 15 minutes with him. And man, dude, in a personal manner, I got nothing against that guy. He was super nice to me. I enjoyed standing there talking to him, but we didn't talk about this, And believe it or not, surreal story. I'm standing there talking to Chris Milligan, and Gary King rolled up on a bicycle. How surreal was that? And you know what? We stood out there and shot the shit for about 10 minutes. Guys, good to meet you. And I went on my way to the airport. All cool. But like I say, man, I just can't get behind, a bunch of the stuff he publishes. Chris, just the way it is, man. All right, Rob, are you about ready to move on to another disgruntled member of our community?
I'm ready, buddy. Lay it on me.
All right, here we go. Topic number 2. I think that was producer Grant going, move it along, boys, move it along. Okay. I wanted to go back, Rob. You and I actually talked about possibly discussing this article a few months ago, but we just never got around to it. But I wanted to revisit it because it occurred to us back then when it was written that we should maybe hit on it on this show. I'm going to go back.
And it's relevant.
It is relevant. Yes, sir. It is still relevant. Exactly. I'm going back a couple of months for this next quick hit, all the way back to December 5th of 2019 to an article published at the website American Free Press, written by author
Jim Fetzer.
No, sir. No, sir.
Oh, okay.
No, sir. No.
Okay.
Not near as abhorrent. Donald Jeffries wrote this. You are familiar with Donald Jeffries.
I am.
Yeah, he wrote this. It's called, you ready for this? The Captain Obvious Award. JFK assassination researchers are fractured and unproductive.
Hey, no shit.
That's what he, yeah. Okay. I'm going to read a little bit of this, okay?
Please, pray tell.
And it goes right to what you were talking about earlier. It says every November for decades, a good number of researchers into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy gather in Dallas. There are always a number of speakers addressing various aspects of the crime. These conferences also occur in other parts of the country and even in the United Kingdom. That was a door squeaking, guys. Sorry, that's some behind inside baseball type stuff. All right, anyway, here I go. I'll explain to you what later, Rob. John Barber.
That was a mouse.
That was a mouse named Grant. Was a mouse named Grant. John Barber, who, like this author, has been absolutely ignored by those who organize and promote these conferences, recently wrote on Facebook.
As well he should.
Pardon me if this upsets anyone, but I do not understand why anyone would either put on another JFK conference, speak at one, or attend one. Every November 2nd should be America's Bastille Day, with the thousands involved with these events or signing useless petitions to Congress, instead gathering at the Robert F. Kennedy Justice Department, Barber says. Barber should reasonably... Okay, first of all, let me stop right there before I read the next sentence. Seems like he is of sort of the same mind as you, Rob, that there's no need for him, that they should go away, the conferences.
That a valid point.
Valid point. Next sentence by Mr. Jeffries. Barber should reasonably be seen as the face of the research community at this point, given his, I'm sorry, did you, somebody tickling you, or do I need to read that again?
Given his alligator necklace and Superman shirt.
Given his work
and
with
Depends undergarments.
Now, that's the thing. These conferences, he says John Barber, who has been absolutely ignored by those who organize and promote. Yeah, he's gonna show up in cowboy boots and a Superman suit. That will get the rest of America to take us seriously, wouldn't it? If John Barber showed up in a Superman suit to a conference.
He is a trying day author.
And yes. It says here, given his work with Jim Garrison and his impressive show business pedigree, from the beginning, when citizen critics of the Warren Report, like Mark Lane and Harold Weisberg, began publishing works that demolished the official story, there was bickering and envy between the large egos and difficult personalities that have always been the predominant researchers in the case. He speaks truth there. Absolutely.
Yes.
Lane and Weisberg despised each other, and dude Mae Brussel despised them both.
Yep.
Garrison.
True shit.
Man, it says, yes, she did. All you got to do is listen to Mae Brussel. Go back and listen to Mae Brussel right after Jonestown happened, guys. He continues, Weisberg, like most of the other leading critics, wanted to be portrayed as the hero of the movie JFK. Garrison's investigation split the critical community, with even the best of them, like former World Health Organization employee Sylvia Marr, turning against the New Orleans district attorney. I didn't know that. And I didn't know that Weisberg wanted to be the hero of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Is that true?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me.
Wow.
I mean, he was bitter. He was bitter and outspoken. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of backdoor things going on. Because when you go look at his archives, there is a lot of stuff in there about that movie, JFK, and his dealings with Stone.
Wouldn't that be interesting? I did not know that.
And the contributions. He's got scripts, and I think he was more pissed that Stone didn't put more of his stuff in the movie and relied heavily on just Garrison.
Yeah. Well, Rob, here is where Mr. Jeffries loses me, okay? So far, I'm kind of with him, right? Except, no. Let me take that back. I totally blew that. The John Barber thing, no. But, as far as him saying that we're fractured, we're divided, I'm with him, kind of.
And we always will be.
We always will be. I do not in any way, shape, form, or fashion agree with him that the JFK assassination research community is unproductive. Some are. And I'll tell you who are.
Yeah.
The ones who it seems like we talk about the most are the most unproductive. I think, yes, some of them are. But here's the thing. There are many who are not unproductive. There are a lot who are, in fact, very, very, very productive. I suggest that Mr. Jeffries adjust the circle of researchers that he surrounds himself with. Because, buddy, let me tell you, the people that I associate with are anything but unproductive.
Right.
Yeah. Now, here's where he really loses me. He endorses the book Final Judgment, The Missing Link in the JFK Assassination Conspiracy by Michael Collins Piper. Are you familiar with this? Yes.
Roy Gavolta.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, go listen to my shows with Mr. X. You'll learn all about it.
Oh, man. He's even got literally two photographs of the cover. Apparently the reason being there's actually a volume 1 and a volume 2. I did not know that. They have the same cover. But apparently, I'm going to read a little bit of this. Well, I guess you could tell I've never read that book. I'm sorry. When Michael Collins Piper, longtime writer for American Free Press and its predecessor, The Spotlight, published Final Judgment in 1993, it was ignored or ridiculed by the research community, Rob.
Yes, I know this.
The predictable charges of anti-Semitism were leveled against him. Recently, on one of the larger JFK assassination forums, this author, Jeffries, responded to a thread revolving around JFK's battles with David Ben-Gurion and Israel's burgeoning nuclear program by noting that credit should be given to Piper, whose research first shed light upon this area. So that ought to tell you guys right there where this Collins Piper book goes. The Mossad, Israel, bovine scatology, twaddle speak.
Yes, what you said. It's
Charlie Foxtrot, Bravo Sierra.
Situation now off up. Yes. And Fetzer was a big proponent of this as well. And, as you mentioned earlier, Donald Jeffries is an American Free Press author and podcaster. It makes sense that he would support this. I did not know that they used to be the Spotlight from, the whole Mark Lane, Liberty, Liberty shit. Oh, man.
You did it again. Rob, 6 years you've been trying to pronounce that.
I cannot say that word.
May I do it for you?
Please.
Liberty Lobby.
God bless America. I cannot say those two words together to save my life.
This has been Pronunciations or Us.
Yeah. But yeah, keep going, because I know. And look, okay, sure. Is there something to it? Was JFK interested in keeping Israel from having nuclear capabilities? Probably. Would it have caused them and the Mossad to kill JFK in the manner that they did? I doubt it.
No,
that's my opinion.
The people that did this spent an inordinate amount of time in Florida, in the Caribbean, not Tel Aviv.
Agreed.
Period. He goes on to say, Rob, it is difficult for those who have devoted decades to researching the assassination, as this author has, and you landed on the Mossad, really, to accept a level of dysfunction among those who share the same intense interest in the subject. I don't know. Just talk about it like we do and go on and do your thing. Keep researching. Keep moving forward, dude. Now, lone noters don't argue with each other about anything. The same can't be said for those who are awake to the truth that a conspiracy took the life of JFK. Well, there's nothing for lone noters to argue about. It's, he did it.
Oswald did it. He's guilty of everything.
What do you argue about?
That's
it. They have no reason to argue with each other. We, in fact, do. Because some people believe that you could fly from Rome to Dallas in 1963,
without refueling,
which you could not do. Some people believe that a cat that had been fired and out of government for 2 years masterminded the whole thing. I do not. We have to argue about things. And that is what we do. Isn't that right, Rob?
That is right. And like I said, we always have and we always will until there is a definite, by God, provable beyond a reasonable doubt shred of evidence that so and so was behind this, or whatever the case may be. Somebody has a Polaroid of Oswald sitting in the window or something.
Yeah.
We're never going to agree on theories, conspiracies, who was behind it, who was manipulating, yada, yada, yada. It's just.
Right. And if you say to me, I know what happened, I'm going to tune you out immediately.
I would rather say, based on my 25 years of research, here's my best guess, my best belief at what happened.
Yeah. And everybody will know when I finally think I know what happened. Everybody will know because I'll tell them and I'll never upload another podcast. All right, enough of that tomfoolery, Rob. What you got coming up next, buddy?
Well, I've got some more shenanigans.
It's time for Facebook shenanigans.
Only this is Ed form shenanigans.
Ed form shenanigans. Well, I'm sorry, sir. I jumped the gun on the Facebook thing. Pray tell, continue.
That's okay. It's okay. Okay. Now, a buddy of mine, who you might know, host of the Midnight Rider News Show, Mr. S.T. Patrick.
This is the show that you guest host quarterly.
It is.
It is.
I met him in Dallas. I love him to death. He's a great dude. He's a better person than I am. Okay? I will go ahead and say that on the air.
Well, extend an invitation to Mr. Patrick to join us on Quick Hits, and we will corrupt him with our evil, evil ways.
I might have to do that. I met him in person. He's a great dude, and we had a lot of fun in Dallas together. And he made a post. I believe he had an article in his latest edition of Garrison that's coming out, issue 3. He posted an article that was written by Larry Rivera called The Twin Lee Oswald Cuban Consulate Visa Applications.
Now, I have heard this name. I've heard the name, and I think
Larry Rivera?
Yeah, I think he might have been at the next historical group conference that we didn't go to. I believe I've heard his name from David Denton before, but I'm not familiar.
Well, here's where you've definitely heard his name before.
Okay.
He's part of the Oswald Innocence Campaign. He's buddies with Ralph Sinkay, Jim Fetzer.
Now, let me tell you how believe
Richard
it or not,
Cook.
guys, I am selective about what I expose myself to. I have not heard that phrase, the Oswald Innocence Campaign, in years.
Yeah.
So that's how isolated I am from all of that kookery. You know, that.
Well, we blocked most of these idiots
years ago.
Didn't
have a choice.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You
Yeah.
can only take so much.
So this, so Larry Rivera is part of that, part of the Fetzer conglomerate.
Yeah. Fetzer published his book called the JFK Horsemen, which he calls the motorcycle cops that were, in the motorcade.
Is this the guy that says the limo stopped?
Yes.
And Clint Hill got out, set up a George Foreman grill, made everybody a burger. Yes. They sat around and ate. They played a game of badminton, and then they got back in the limo and continued to drive away. Apparently the limo stopped for 7.5 hours or some shit.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Pretty close. He states that one of the motorcycle cops stated that they came to a complete stop. He put the kickstand down on his motorcycle, got off his bike, walked behind the limousine, picked something up off the ground, maybe a piece of skull or what, who knows, and then got back on his bike and continued on down Elm Street, which is not present in any of the films or photographs from the day. Or
in any sort of reality. Maybe photographs, film. I'm aware of this. I believe, isn't this the same crowd that says Jack Ruby wasn't Jack Ruby, but he was someone else, and then he was Jack Ruby again, or something like that.
And
nuttery,
doorway, and all that horse's assery. So
now you have coined a phrase.
So, immediately my hackles are raised, okay, when I see this. So I'm like, all right, well, let me just see what this is about, okay? Because, new information is new information, right? So let's see what it's about. So I open up the article that he posted. It's a downloadable PDF, okay? And so the thing is, and why he posted this, okay, is that, of course, people speculate, okay, did Lee Harvey Oswald actually go to the Cuban consulate in Mexico City on September 27, 1963 to apply for a transit visa to Cuba, which would later enable him to get back to the Soviet Union, okay? And he states this was part of a plan to make his great escape and get away, but I don't think that was it at all. I think that if they would have given him a visa, he was going to go ahead to Cuba and then to Russia and then fetch Marina later, or not. I don't know. I think if Oswald was in Mexico City, that was his original plan. But again, I don't think he was in Mexico City. So,
man, I am so. Now I'm sort of over on this side. Probably not, but then sometimes, and I tell you, what always tips it for me is J. Edgar Hoover's reaction to the Mexico story. That tells me it wasn't him.
Right.
For a long time, I adopted a word from Bill Simpich. He told me one time that he was agnostic on the issue, and I was like, "Oh, that works," because I can't decide. But man, the Hoover reaction to Mexico City makes me think, nah, it wasn't him.
Yeah, I mean, so we have these Cuban consulate visa applications. Okay,
yeah.
there is apparently two of them. Okay, but Rivera does not post a link to the supposed unofficial one that was found. There's one on the Mary Farrell website, which is the one that's stamped. It's the one that has his picture stapled to it. Apparently, that is the only one that was linked in the article. The other one that they're talking about here doesn't have the official stamp on it, and it doesn't have a staple in his picture. Okay, and apparently there's official documents that stated that his picture was stapled, by Sylvia Duran to the thing, and somehow this other visa application shows up. Now, when you look at these visa applications, there is a visa application number that needs to be handwritten in. Okay, so apparently They kept track of these things, by numbering them. All right, and on the official one, it is actually number 779. Okay, that is what was in the. Sorry, I got all these fucking papers here. That apparently is what was in.
Rob, this is a different podcast. It's all these confounded papers.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Oops.
I think producer Grant's going to put a swear jar in the control room.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Here it is. Okay, so I have the official Warren Commission translation of this Cuban consulate document because it is in Spanish. And of course, the guys there wanted to know what it said exactly. So I made a post that said, Oswald or whomever was impersonating him made several trips to the Cuban embassy.
Right.
One explanation for the similar documents are different visa application numbers, because on the one that is not stamped or stapled, it does not look like 779. Okay, it looks like 719 or something to that effect,
Yeah.
or 717. They're not identical numbers. You can at least tell that much from it.
Right.
Okay, and this thing could be 719. So which would make more sense if one was 717 and one was 719. Because I don't think there was a ton of people trying to get to Cuba via the Mexican consulate, on any given day in 1963.
No,
Okay?
no, I don't. It's the fact that it was so rare is why it set off so many alarms.
Right. So, but it was translated as 779. Okay, so supposedly Duran had to help Oswald, in quotes, fill out his application.
Right.
Maybe he did something wrong on his first attempt and had to fill out another upon returning to the embassy. The visa application numbers to me look different. The official one is supposed to be 779. As I stated, the beginning 7 of each number looks different. Rivera is alleging both numbers to be 779, and this does not appear to be the case. It also explains two different versions of the signatures. While not identical in size, the identifiers of how he wrote the L's, the H's, and O's being the same. These documents were signed by the same person, Oswald or not, with one being an official one with a stamp, the other probably placed in a file and turned over with whatever else was in the consulate paperwork file on, quote, Oswald. I would also add that Rivera does not say where the other document was found or comes from, and with his past track record of questionable research, i.e., the JFK horseman and alleging a limo stopped long enough for a motorcycle cop to get off his bike and pick up a piece of skull, and the whole Auction 6 allegations of fakery with massive alteration going on to turn LHO into Billy Lovelady, association with Fetzer, Cinque, and Hook, I take his research with a grain of salt.
You know what? I agree with that 100%. One of those previous conditions by themselves makes me go, do your thing. Leave me out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go do your thing. Say what you want to say, whatever. I don't care.
It's supposedly,
that makes sense.
As Jim DiEugenio reminded me in this thread, that David Josephs has also done extensive work on these on the Mexico City thing as well. And he even answered me saying, well, we can let people's own eyes decide. One wonders the reasons behind not showing Duran this application, given how much she did, especially with helping him get the photos made.
Yeah.
Given we now know he was not there, the applications are props and right up Hunt's alley and skill set, just saying. Now, to me, they look, the signatures are definitely different, but the way you make a cursive L is distinct. The way he makes his H is distinct, and the way he makes his O's with another little curly thing at the top and going into the S looks the same. Like even now, Doug, when you write your name in a hurry.
Exactly, man. Dude, you took the words right out of my mouth. Because I could show you, I could go down the hallway where I'm at now and find 10 examples of paperwork that's got my signature on it. All right? Right now. And lay all 10 of those out. And you could find a couple that if you were to show somebody who didn't know me, and they could find well, that's totally different. Well, that's totally different. That's totally different. Because you're writing your name in a hurry. Sometimes I take my time with it. Most of the time, I don't. And I've seen Lee Oswald's writing. He didn't take his time to learn English very well, much less, not the most literate guy in the world, not the best handwriting I ever saw either. Right. So that's very iffy, the whole handwriting thing with Oswald, man. It's you can't base much on that, I don't believe.
And ultimately, what does it prove?
Nothing.
Okay, you still can't prove whether it was actually him or not. Okay. They got this picture on his visa application from somewhere. You know, where the hell did they get it? If it was Oswald, then they took his picture and put it on there. If it wasn't Oswald, somebody had this picture of him, and it looks like he's wearing a sweater vest and a tie, and he looks miserable. I mean,
yeah.
To me, it looks like I don't know. It's just a big mystery. Like
that's an unusual photo too. It's It's an interesting photo. I don't know why. I look at that guy and I hate to go off into Harvey and Lee land, but I don't see that. I don't see the same guy.
Yeah, it's very weird
from Dallas. It's like
this is not very far removed from his New Orleans arrest photo, and we're talking a month, and he looks totally different.
Yeah, I tell you something else, man.
It's weird.
Have you ever the arrest photo where the one side of his face is all bulbous and swollen from the ass kicking he got from the cops?
Yeah.
Have you ever covered up that side of his face and looked at that photo?
Oh yeah,
dude, he looks meaner than hell. I'll say that, man. If you just cover that up and you the look on his face on the good side, he's mad. He's mad.
Well,
he's not scared. He's mad.
Long before Harvey and Lee came about, if you go back and look at some of the stuff that Jack White was doing in the 80s, taking half pictures of Oswald's face and putting it in doing mirror images.
Yeah.
There's some weird shit coming out. Like he would take half of Oswald's face and mirror image it. And most people's faces are somewhat symmetrical. You should look somewhat like yourself if you take half your face and mirror it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the photos he did that with were just way off. I mean, way, way off. And it's interesting,
I know that guy was a little controversial to some, but man, what a workhorse, dude. Jack White.
Oh yeah,
pioneer, man. And as much recognition as he gets, I don't believe he deserves enough, or gets as much as he deserves. I think that's just an aside,
Yeah, that's all I got though.
All right.
Well, touch on some horse's assery.
Horse's assery. Well, we should make that. We should just title a segment. That.
Yeah,
I love that word. That's great. I'm writing it down as we speak. Well, Rob, you want to get started with Facebook shenanigans. I just got one this week, but it's the opposite. Rob, I want to give quick hits Facebook attaboy.
Okay.
A way to go. And since it's a way to go and a good job in recognizing someone for the opposite of Facebook shenanigans, we can name this individual, and that is researcher Chris Gallup, who is the lead administrator, I guess, creator of the Facebook group JFK, The Continuing Inquiry. And he, of course, puts together a symposium and luncheon every year about anniversary time in Dallas that a lot of people have spoken very highly of. And I've actually had him on my show. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. I want to give him an attaboy for a pinned post at the top of the page at his Facebook group. And I want to read it to you. Okay, Rob?
Okay.
George H.W. Bush was not, that is capitalized, in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. Any further posting or promoting of this BS will result in the post being removed and the poster being banned. Furthermore, George W. Bush was not in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. Any further posting or promoting of this BS will result in the post being removed and the poster being banned. Now get back to real researchers and leave the BS to the paid disinformants. Chris Gallup, we salute you, sir. Way to go.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Attaboy, Mr. Chris Gallup. Dude, you rock. Thank you for that. And I'm at least somebody, other than us, Rob, somebody is joining us in this fight against this purebred idiocy. This George H.W. Bush was in Dealey Plaza bullshit. Just take it away. Take it away.
I agree.
I don't want to hit.
I agree.
All right, that's all I got, man. What do you have for Facebook shenanigans?
Well,
Anything?
I don't really have any Facebook shenanigans.
Well, there you go. Well, what do you got?
I figured
Emails?
Ed Forum shenanigans was enough. So
Okay.
if
Well,
we do get into Facebook shenanigans, we'd be here all night.
we would be here all night. Yeah. Boy, oh boy, I've got a couple saved for the next couple of episodes
sure.
already. So, we have an email address, do we not, Rob?
We do. That is quickhitsjfk@gmail.com.
All right. Well, has anyone bothered to seek our omnipotent knowledge and wisdom via email?
From the last time where we had nothing but dust bunnies, we actually have two emails, kind of.
Wow.
We have one email. We have one legit email and one message that I told the guy that we would answer on Quick Hits.
Okay, well here we go. I am ready, and I have not previewed this in any way. This is a surprise for me.
Yes, so I got a message on Facebook from a listener of both mine and yours show.
Cool.
He says he is a big fan of me and you, and that he listens to the Dallas Action and the Lone Gunman.
Well, you know what? I'm already a big fan of his.
Yep, at nighttime. Really appreciate the hard work you guys do. And this is from Jake Niehoff, okay?
Dude, thank you for the kind words, buddy.
Yes, he sent me a picture, which I had not really seen before. And it is a picture that I'm not sure if you've seen before, but it's from the Tippit murder scene, okay? And it is a picture of a stop sign that has most definitely been either pushed or hit. It is definitely, I wouldn't say it's resting on the ground, but it's damn close, okay?
Been run over by a car.
That's what it looks like to me. Now, he asks, how does this stop sign have to do with the Tippit murder? I couldn't find any information on this, a random picture of a destroyed stop sign by a man on foot. Now, and I said, okay, interesting. I shall look into it and listen on the next Quick Hits for your response.
This is new to me.
It was new to me too, Doug. And
you just did a show on the Tippit shooting on the Lone Gunman.
I did.
Just
I
believe you uploaded Monday morning? Number 162, is that right?
I did.
Making Sense of the Tippit Murder. Did I get the title right?
Yes.
There you go. I'm a loyal listener as well.
Cool. Well, I'm glad.
Pray continue, sir.
Adds you to the third one on the list.
I'm up to 17 now, but I got a lot of cousins.
All right. I am looking for this official response.
All right.
So I didn't know. So I Googled it, and the only thing I came up with was like an official thing from the Dallas Archives. It was a picture saying it was taken on November 22nd of a down stop sign at the corner of 10th and Patton. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Now, obviously, so I said, does anyone know the significance or story behind this damaged stop sign at the southeast corner of 10th and Patton? And it was an original black and white photograph negative taken by Dallas Times-Herald photographer Daryl Hikes. This image shows a damaged stop sign on the southeast corner of 10th Street and Patton in Oak Cliff near the scene of J.D. Tippett's murder on November 22nd, 1963.
Right.
So I got quite a few responses, and we're going to go through them here, okay? Because I don't know which one's right and which one's wrong. I'll tell you which ones I think have a little bit more credence. Okay, somebody said, it was from a minor traffic accident earlier in the day. It was investigated, and there's no connection.
Very possible, I
Yep.
guess. I mean, I say I guess like I know all the context and background. I have no idea.
Yeah. Somebody else said, well, there's no connection, in quotes. Now just keep moving. There's nothing going on here, folks. No connection. Just keep moving, which implies that maybe there is some significance to this down stop sign at 10th and Patton.
I got to throw a flag. That is irresponsible research posting.
Yeah. So somebody said, tell us about
Rob,
the accident.
Rob, excuse me.
Yes.
That's the difference in a conspiracy buff and a deep history researcher, an assassination researcher, right there.
Correct.
The conspiracy buff, yeah, whatever, it ain't connected. Hell, I know damn well CIA boys run it over with a tank, by God.
Well, no, I think the gentleman who posted that was being facetious. I believe he thinks there might be something behind the down stop sign at 10th and Patton.
Yeah, but to phrase it like that, I think is a little irresponsible if we're talking about critical thinking and disciplined analysis. Because he had never seen this guy. He had never seen the picture either.
Yeah. So somebody asked him, okay, what spooky connections are there at 10th and Patton? Collins Radio, maybe? Carl Mather hit the stop sign? We want to know. So he said, I don't know of any connections. I never heard of it before. Were there bullet holes in the stop sign? Was asked. Yes, several bullet holes.
Really?
No, this guy's being an asshole. He says, but they weren't 38 holes. They were 6.5 millimeter. No, Bill. Oh, sorry. I said his name. Oops. There were no bullet holes in the sign.
6.5 millimeter.
Yeah.
In that neighborhood.
He was joking.
Oh, okay.
Obviously.
Okay.
Obviously.
One would hope.
Then somebody else posted a picture of Downs stop signs in Dealey Plaza, which turned out to be temporary signs that were set up to keep cars from parking on Houston Street on Friday morning.
Oh.
Captured in many photos. But that was not the case at 10th and Patton. This was definitely a sign that was in the ground, bent over almost to the ground. Obviously, to me, it looks like somebody hit it.
Yeah.
It's part of a traffic accident. Now, whether or not it was earlier in the day on November 22nd, I don't know.
Larry Crayford ran over it. That's my theory. I'm going to put it in a book.
Yeah, well, somebody even said, that J.D. Tipper was called there to investigate it. That there was a traffic incident there, but it was more like a kind of a hit and run type deal. And by the time Tippett got there, everybody was gone. And that's what he was actually called there for.
That's the first I have ever heard of that in any of any sort of previous work. Have you ever heard that?
I have not heard that, so I lend it no credence. So
I need a citation, anonymous poster.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. So to answer your question, Jake, we're really still not sure, but there's some stuff to chew on. Maybe some stuff, maybe give you some ideas, some avenues to pursue in the future.
Maybe you can look forward to a follow-up on the Lone Gunman podcast or the Dallas action.
That's quite possible.
Or even here, Jake.
But not probable.
I guess the polite thing would be to follow up on this show since, that's where we answer the email. We're sorry, Jake. We're not real bright sometimes, buddy, but thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And the next question comes from listener Alex. Okay?
All right.
He says, guys, I'm really enjoying the podcast thus far.
Well, thank you for saying so, Alex.
Yes, thank you, Alex. As someone who has been interested in the Kennedy assassination for a while, but has not studied in depth, what books would you guys recommend I start with? So he's been interested in a while, but he has not studied in depth.
In depth. Okay.
What books would you recommend? My
go-to is State Secret by Bill Simpich. Right?
And you can get it for free on the Mary Farrell site.
But that is probably not the best place to start if you have not studied it in depth.
You need some background. You need some groundwork.
I've been studying this on and off, mostly on, since I was 11 years old. All right. I've read State Secret 5 times, and it took 2 before I absorbed it. And it's not because it's complicated or it's a hard read. It's just Mr. Simpich starts at a point of a guy that's been digging and scholarly with the documents and everything. So
yeah, it's not written for a beginner.
Walt Brown's The Kennedy Execution. That is where you start.
That's a good one.
His last JFK assassination book. The Kennedy execution, I can't remember the subtitle, How 6 Seconds in Dallas Kept the Cold War Myth Alive, something like that. But you can get that from Dr. Walt, this book, at KIASJFK at, is it yahoo.com? No, that ain't right, is it? At AOL.com.
AOL, yeah.
AOL. KIASJFK at AOL.com. Dr. Walt Brown. Alex, get that book, The Kennedy Execution. Rob,
cash, check, or money order.
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you something else. Order that chronology on CD. You know what, Rob? Let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and throw my endorsement out for Alex. My suggestions are the 38,000-page JFK analytical chronology on CD-ROM by Dr. Walt Brown, and his book, The Kennedy Execution. Start there. Rob, what would you suggest?
Here's my advice, Alex. Yeah. Read everything you can get your hands on that interests you. Okay?
Amen.
And I would recommend what I did. I found an amazing, gigantic, used bookstore.
Yes.
Okay? In Frederick, Maryland. Okay? It's called Wonder Books, and they have 3 locations around here, kind of locally, but they are enormous. And they have probably a 12-foot wide by 10-foot high section of nothing but Kennedy-related books. They have sections for each president, but the Kennedy section is much larger for obvious reasons. And I found many, many great books there for like $5 a piece, $4 a piece, $3 a piece. And
we have one local, Rob. It's called McKay, and it is a warehouse, dude. And they have a fantastic JFK assassination section. It's not that big, but it's such a huge place that they rotate in and out.
Right. There's always new stuff there. That's a great thing.
I probably got, I know for a fact I've got 3 copies of Oswald in the CIA by John Newman, because I go in there and they've got one for $1.50. Bam, I snatch it. We were talking about Walt Brown, his book Treachery in Dallas, that was in the 90s. I bought a copy there for $2, and I sent him a picture. Hey, look what I bought. And he says, and it was a first edition. He says, wow, I don't even have a copy of that.
Yeah, and I have the first edition, The Trial of Lee Harvey Oswald, that I got for $4.95, by Walt Brown.
Find a big, good used bookstore, dude. Just like Rob says, man.
Grab everything you can get, because honestly, there's not one book that has it all. And there's many, many books that might have a little piece of what you need.
Yeah.
That you can piece together for yourself and make sense logically, using some of other people's research, using some of your own.
Yeah.
To weave yourself a narrative in your mind that you're comfortable with. JFK and the Unspeakable is a great book as to some of the why. Now, there's people out there that don't like it. And of course, Jim's Crossfire. I would recommend, anything like that encompasses a lot of things, like Anthony Summers' Conspiracy.
Yes, which you know what, those books and like the Mark Lane books and the Sylvia Marr books are you can usually find those at that bookstore we have out here.
Yeah, very cheap. Definitely encourage you to read Rush to Judgment.
Hey, yes, dude. Any
Whitewash book by Harold Weisberg, any of them,
dude, for sure. Is Alex, was that his name?
Yes. Alex,
for sure. Grab those earlier ones. For sure. Rush to Judgment, like Rob says. The Sylvia Marr books. Anything you can find by Harold Weisberg. Grab those early works. For sure. Plausible Denial by Mark Lane. But I'm like you, Rob, man. Those early ones, if you can get them, grab them.
Yeah, and I would definitely say, what is Jeffrey Caulfield's book called? General Walker
and the murder of President Kennedy. Yeah.
Yes. I definitely recommend that book. That's a really good recent one. Try to stay away from the ones that are trying to sell you on their pet theory. That's what I would say. That, they have, newly discovered evidence and stuff about people that really don't matter to the whole thing. You'll run into a lot of crap on Amazon that are self-published.
Yeah. Rob, recommending things, that's cool. I would say to Mr. Alex, now, if you want us to privately in email form give you a list of books to absolutely never, ever, ever open, we could give you a big, long list of those, stuff to stay away from, too. If it's got monkey in the title, don't,
Yeah. Or Me and Lee, yeah. I would also recommend, for a good overview, a basic overview of a lot of the different conspiracy theories in the case, Carmine Savastano's book, Two Princes and a King. It gives you that. It gives you the RFK assassination and the Martin Luther King assassination. It's a good overview.
He's presenting compelling information without trying to sell a compelling theory.
Correct.
There.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else about that dude's work. You're never going to find anything that he can't prove with a citation.
Or a document.
That's what I meant. Yeah, a document or citation. And that is so incredibly important. It's what I try to do on the Dallas Action. Every narrative, every show is based on documents and documentation. And got to do that, man. Got to give it credibility that way. And I'm... for sure. But yeah, Alex, we can give you lots of recommendations of what not to read.
Yeah. Now, my show is more based on logical speculation, using documentation, eyewitness testimony, things like that. I'm not just pulling things out of thin air over here, but, I do a little bit more speculating. Logical speculation is what I call it.
Logical speculating. I'm with you, buddy. On my show, we do wild and woolly speculation. All right.
But that's it for the mailbag.
Well, dude, thank you, Mr. Alex, for the email, and thank you, Jake, and guys, thanks for the kind words, and thanks for listening. Rob, that is all I got. Is that all you got, buddy?
That's it.
All right. Well, why don't you let's sign off, man.
All right, let's do it. If you like what you hear tonight, make sure you check out my show, The Lone Gunman Podcast. You can find it anywhere you Google it. iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, etc., etc. You could head to tlgpodcast.blogspot.com and find an amazing array of shows and links that will keep you busy for months and months and months and months and months. Treat yourself, Douglas.
That's right. Treat yourself. And all those things that Rob said about the Lone Gunman and finding it, ditto for the Dallas Action. All right. Well, let's get out of here. Guys, for Rob Clark and producer Grant, this is Doug Campbell saying thanks for hanging out. Thanks for playing along. Tune in again next time when we'll hear filmmaker Oliver Stone tell Judyth Baker,
"Hey, big man, let me hold $1."
We are out.
Peace.
What the hell is that?